glad you're here. Thank you very much for joining me. Many of you that have followed me through the years realize that I've lived in many states. Lived in California, lived in Oregon, and more recently, South Dakota. The first thing my kids said when they got off the bus from Oregon was, "Mama, there's no graffiti." And I thought it was going to be a great state. And it was for a long time. I feared the problems that were in other states, if it ever showed up here in South Dakota, being such a small population, it would be an indication that things are really bad. Perhaps we're even in the end times. When I lived in California, there was a ring of people, which was interstate, that was growing marijuana and probably other drugs and transporting them across the country. I didn't realize that our neighbor across the valley there in California was doing such things until one day when we came home and found all our livestock had been murdered. Our chickens, our sheep, the dog, one of the dogs had been shot. And it wasn't just that they were killed, they were butchered. The heads of the chickens and the turkey were put on fence posts. I knew they were growing marijuana across the valley. At night we could see the flashlights of them going around watering their plants, their marijuana plants, I assumed. So after the murder of our livestock, I called the drug task force and turned them in. We moved to Oregon. Shortly after I moved to Oregon, one of the people that was involved in the operation showed up at our house there in Bonanza, and I asked him how the heck did he find out, and he says, "Doesn't matter where you move, we're going to find out." You know, it's like a puzzle piece, putting the pieces of a puzzle together. Well, they were in cahoots with the police, so they would find wherever we moved through DMV. Years later, I moved to South Dakota, and bad things started happening here. Once again, I had a dog that was murdered, my car vandalized, and I was put on a website, a government website, I assume, saying do not hire website. That was on a background check that you would have to go through to get a job. Well, actually, the employer would look on the background check, and I was showed by my future employer at IHOP that it was actually on there saying that I was not to be hired, but didn't say who put it on there or why. This group of drug dealers, like I said, they're cross country, had some powerful people. But it wasn't just drugs that the many arms of this group was involved in. It was also child exploitation. I had tapes, documentation of police officers arranging parties with young girls, minors. My house was raided in South Dakota, and they U.S. Marshals came in and took all the tapes, all the evidence of the drugs, the parties that was being arranged by the police with minor girls. But nothing ever came of it. There was never any prosecution to any of the people that were involved in this ring. Just there in South Dakota, Ipswich, in fact, is where I moved to. I had a police file of 2 inches. It was 2 inches thick of different reports of acts of violence against me and my house and my pets and my car and property. But no one was ever prosecuted. One time I actually caught a group of people on my property. The only reason I caught them was they had a bad starter. And when they vandalized my car to make their getaway, it wouldn't turn on, and so I caught them. And the local police came out, come to find out that they had come from Aberdeen and were relatives of other police officers. And the police officer that came out refused to arrest them, pushed their car down the road to get it started, and I told him I wanted charges placed on him, and he goes, "Well, be happy, Mary, I'm getting them off your property." One of the family members of the drug ring actually lived in Ipswich, South Dakota. Yeah, what are the chances you move from California to Oregon and then to South Dakota and those people that were involved lived in the town where I moved to here in South Dakota. What are the chances? So DOC Secretary Kelly Wasco announced May 29th once again that they busted an apparent drug ring smuggling operation that comes into the state prison facility through an internal investigation. They went on to say that we are stopping the flow of drugs into our prison facilities. My team has worked collaboratively with the Division of Criminal Investigation, DIC, to achieve this. We have identified and stopped methods used to introduce dangerous contraband that has had a direct effect on the overdose death. 3 inmates have died as a direct result of drug overdoses, according to the DOC release, though they were not named. DCI took over the investigation into the deaths of 2 inmates, Jason Todd Garreau, 39, and Joshua Arrow Jr., 24, both of whom had died this month in May. Garreau resided in the South Dakota State Penitentiary in Sioux Falls, while Arrow Jr. was housed at the James Annex, an adjacent maximum security facility. South Dakota Searchlight reported May 28th that a 3rd inmate, Anthony Richards, 20, died in February of an overdose. The outlet stated Richards' autopsy report found he had died from self-administered of drug synthetic cannabinoid 5-FADB, which is also known as K2, a designer synthetic drug. The DOC stated criminal charges would be filed if, that's a big if, the results of the investigation warranted prosecution. The department also referred to the results of the drug bust investigation revealed on May 29th as preliminary. The DOC officials did not immediately respond when asked by the August Leader, and that's here in South Dakota, it's a news site, if the department or the DCI had found a suspect or suspects tied to the smuggling. Questions about whether the government agencies had filed or planned to file criminal charges in the matter also remained unanswered. The DOC stated drugs had been delivered to inmates in the state prison and Jameson by the way of counterfeit packages and legal mail through false use of privileged mail system. So what is that privileged mail system? That is care packages that friends and family can buy through the prison website. Private companies assigned to the jails to deliver the goods, coffee, shampoo, shoes, maybe socks, different food items. These are companies that have contracts with the jail to deliver these care packages, or what they call commissaries. Commissaries, often they have to put their order in by Friday, the inmates, and then what they buy for that week is delivered on Tuesday. And I thought it was a coincidence that on Tuesday they had the riots there in the prison in Sioux Falls. Did they have the riot because the packages were not delivered? The commissary was not delivered? Because once the DOC had their investigation, they stopped all incoming goods. The DOC stated drugs had been delivered to inmates in the state pen and Jameson by way of the counterfeit packages and legal mail through false use of the privileged mail system. Everything is inspected. They know exactly where these packages are coming from. There's no way drugs are mysteriously being shipped to the jails by a counterfeit mail system. No way. But the correctional department also pinned the blame on the actions of visitors, including family members and friends, bringing drugs into the prison during visitation, which contraband contributed to one of the deaths. The DOC stated it had enacted non-contact visits for family and friends of offenders at the state pen complex, with the option of expanding the restriction to other prison facilities within its domain. The DOC is also reviewing additional policy changes according to the Thursday's release. When I lived in Oregon, I was trying to help a lot of the children who came from families of drug users. They would tell me how their parents had deals with the local police, highway patrol, and different officials. The police would come in and be supplied with drugs from the drug dealers, and then who knows where the drugs went to. But I do know that during one of the police calls that was made for vandalism at our home there in Oregon, my police call for help was actually canceled. No one even bothered to show up. And the call evidently was canceled by the two highway patrol. We lived in such a small town, it was only patrolled by highway patrol. So the two officers that were involved in canceling the call for help were suspended, taken off the street, and put to work in the jail there in Klamath Falls. And then the word went out that there was more drugs in the jail now than there was on the streets. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out where the police officers got their drugs and why the drugs were now more in jail than out on the streets. So I read the article about the drug overdoses there in state prisons here in South Dakota, and their excuse about counterfeit packages imitating well-known manufacturers for a large amount of drugs that was being brought in, and there was no arrest. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who was probably involved and why. Yeah, all the different people that are involved, going from California to Oregon, those are my two experiences, and then here to South Dakota. All the arms of the octopus, I guess you can say, that are involved. No one has ever been prosecuted. Delivering, procuring, or possession with the intent to deliver drugs or controlled substances to any inmate in a state correction facility without authorization from the Department of Correction is a Class 4 felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison and $20,000 fine. My son is currently in jail. He went to jail for having kinky sex. He didn't know, his girlfriend didn't know they were breaking the law by doing certain sex acts, consent from both of them. They didn't know. And my son is looking at 25 years in prison for kinky sex. Allison Bakken, who I talked to today about my son's case, says she's going to throw the full weight of the law at my son. Doesn't matter that they both knew that they were breaking the law. They didn't know. Doesn't matter that it was consensual sex. They didn't know. What sex act did they did? Well, it was choking his partner. It is illegal here in South Dakota to have sex where you put your hands around someone's neck and choke them. I have text messages from his girlfriend showing that it was consensual sex and that they had watched a video and thought it would be fun to do. I actually have proof of this. I gave the proof to the detective. I went to the state's attorney office and said the same thing, and she said she don't care. This law is on the books, and she's going to prosecute him to the fullest point of the law, which is 25 years, where bringing drugs, people overdosing to the prison, the maximum there is only 10 years and $20,000 fine. But if you happen to watch maybe 20 Shades of Grey, I think that's what the movie is, and agree to play out some of those sex acts, know that you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and have more jail time than a corrupt official, a corrupt police officer, highway patrol, government official bringing drugs into the prisons. which could potentially, yeah, they've already had 3 people overdose. So anyways, yeah, what are your thoughts about this? Please put your comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And please pray for my son. Yeah, dumb things that young people do. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.